Mike, why is Donnie Nelson gone?
I do think that Bob Voulgaris accumulated power. I don't know about shadow GM, or we had two GMs, or the other guy had more power than Donnie Nelson. But I think that elevation, which I view as a mistake by Mark Cuban, created friction. And I do think that when we say mutual parting, I think there's some validity to that. I don't think Cuban said, get the hell out of here, any more than Donnie said, get me the hell out of here if you're not going to change some of the ways that this thing is structured. What we need to find out next is, does the next general manager here, for instance, hurry up and call Toronto, please? And by the way, if your search committee doesn't, in 15 seconds, come up with the name of Ujiri in Toronto, fire the search committee. That's the search. That's the name. And you should interview a wide range of guys, and you should interview Michael Finley, who Cuban has told me he thinks Finley, obviously the iconic Maverick player who works in the front office now, is worthy of being the general manager in Chicago, Michael's hometown. Well, if that's true, then he's certainly worthy of getting interviewed here. But I don't need a search committee to tell me who the best general manager is in basketball. He's, by the way, out of contract, and recently did media in which he said, I sure want to make sure that ownership up here is really committed to winning. Now, that's an interesting thing to say for a guy who's out of contract. But the next key thing here, Sean, is that person going to come here, and are there going to be shadow general managers standing behind him? And if the answer is yes, that person won't come here. That would be a problem.
Mike, you know how much Choppy and I cover gambling on this show, especially
Yes.
RJ. Let me try to pitch you on why Bob Voulgaris' presence will be a good thing, right? And you respect Vegas as much as anyone. They get it right more than any insiders and any analysts and any former athletes. So couldn't Cuban justify the presence of Bob Voulgaris by saying, Vegas gets it right more than anyone. Let's bring in one of those people to help our organization.
It's 100% brilliant of Cuban, who's always tried to be ahead of the game in these matters over the course of his ownership, to take advantage of what you just talked about. But there's a difference between having an analytics department and having the guy who's the head of the analytics department sitting in the front row at the games making faces at the players. As I've said to Choppy many times, and he laughs at me, but he knows it's true. The Dallas Cowboys, the phrase I always use is, have a very robust analytics department. The Joneses spent a lot of money on analytics. And that department gets to hand, before Sunday's game, gets to go to the head coach and hand him a packet. But then the head coach gets to decide whether he wants to rely on the packet or throw it away. Around here, the one before it, I thought The Athletic obviously did a great deep dive on this. The idea that Bob Voulgaris is handing starting lineup cards to Rick Carlisle and that Carlisle's fine with it, that's just can't be true. That it's got to be that the analytics department gives its ideas to Carlisle.
Yeah.
And then Carlisle absorbs the ideas, as he has for his entire career, certainly his decade here. When he first came here, I got to know him a little bit and wrote a story about how Carlisle's so good at what he does because he's got one foot in the new wave Mark Cuban, new school, as you might call it, Sean, but he's also got one foot in Red Auerbach. He's equal parts both. I think that's what makes Carlisle so good. So that, yes, analytics, absolutely critically important, but they can't sit on the front row. The basketball people have to be in charge of basketball. And Mark Cuban, this should have applied to him a long time ago, and on and off it does. It certainly applies to Bob Voulgaris. Even if you're an analyst, a gambler, Bitcoins, whatever you're a genius at, it's not exactly the same as being a basketball coach or a general manager.